12 minutes before midnight, in a locker room drained of sound, Aaron Rodgers did something simple and sharp. He signed a jersey for Jordan Love. No fireworks, no parting shot, just a Sharpie, a pause, a signature. That small act tells you almost everything you need to know about the night in Pittsburgh. Rodgers began the game like a reminder of why he's still one of the best to ever play the position. He escaped pressure, uncorked a 45-yard bomb, and hit DK Metcalf on back-to-back plays that put the Steelers ahead before halftime. He finished with respectable numbers for a 41-year-old. Tidy accuracy, 2 touchdown throws, a passer rating north of 100. And for stretches, he looked like the quarterback who can still alter a defense with a single play. But football is a second-half sport, and the second half belonged to Jordan Love. Love finished sharper, steadier, and more efficient. He completed nearly 80% of his attempts, threw for 360 yards, and engineered a fourth-quarter onslaught that turned a close game into a 35-25 Packers win. Love didn't force throws. He took what the defense gave him, moved in the pocket when he needed to, and spread the ball to 10 different targets. That balance is what made Green Bay's late surge feel inevitable. What broke the Steelers wasn't one glaring mistake, it was a string of failures in execution. Pittsburgh converted only 1/3 down all night. 1. That's not a Rodgers stat. That's protection, route precision, drops, penalties, and play calling all unspooling at once. Rodgers created opportunities. The offense failed to complete them. When the pass rush started to find rhythm, the pocket narrowed and the playbook shrank to desperation throws. Micah Parsons' first-quarter pressure that turned into late-game sacks was emblematic. When the front gets home, even elite instincts become reactive instead of proactive. And then there were the plays that shift momentum. A badly timed drop by Pat Freiermuth, followed immediately by Kenneth Gainwell's fumble. Those 2 snaps back-to-back flipped the field and the emotional tenor of the game. In tight contests, sequence matters more than single snaps. You can have a dazzling throw, but if the follow-up plays bite you in the ass, the scoreboard doesn't care how pretty the highlight was. Contrast that with Love's night. The Packers dialed fewer heroics and more discipline. When the run game tightened the box, Love took the quick reads and the checkdowns. When an opening appeared, he attacked it with precision. The Packers' fourth-quarter 21-point outburst wasn't a fluke. It was the product of sustained, error-free execution and a quarterback who trusts the details over desperation. There's a cultural angle here that's easy to miss if you focus only on stats. Rodgers signed with Pittsburgh carrying a mountain of narrative. Former franchise legend, elder statesman, the guy who could lift a team's ceiling just by showing up. The locker room reaction, the quiet, the lack of a theatrical post-game speech, the jersey autograph, suggested Rodgers chose humility over headline bait. That's leadership in practice. You accept the loss, you sign the jersey, you keep the room steady. But leadership doesn't replace fundamentals. It buys time. It doesn't fix missed third downs. If you put on the coach's hat for 5 seconds, the Steelers' priorities are obvious. First, stabilize protection. When the edge and interior pressure get consistent, you need quicker releases, cleaner slide protections, and more micro adjustments to stunt recognition. Second, design third down series that don't put the ball in one player's improvisational hands. If the line can't hold for 6 seconds, the offense should be built to get it out in 2. Third, eliminate situational turnovers. A drop and a fumble in the same sequence is a chain reaction that turns momentum into scoreboard drains. Tactically, the Steelers can mask some of these issues, use quicker passing concepts, more 2-back sets to help chip rushers, and exploit motion and misdirection to counteract aggressive fronts. None of it is glamorous, but none of it is optional. You don't beat a team that closes well by hoping for Rodgers to conjure miracles every fourth quarter. For Green Bay, the takeaway is confirmation. Love showed he can manage a high-pressure environment and close a game on the road. The offense's balance, run plays that set up play action, and a quarterback who doesn't panic, creates late-game scoring windows that are hard to deny. Love's efficient, patient approach gives the Packers an identity that's not dependent on one receiver or one burst of genius. That makes them easier to trust and harder to scheme against. There's one real human note to this story. The players felt the loss. Patrick Queen's line, That's the stuff that kind of stings the most. Wasn't performative. It was the honest sting of a team that wanted to give its veteran leader something to celebrate and couldn't. Pain can be destructive, sure, but it can also be clarifying. Mike Tomlin's response, back in the lab, is the right one. Quiet, focused work beats hot takes. Finally, what does this mean for Rodgers' arc? Nights like this are hybrid proof. He still has the arm, the timing, and the craft, but he also needs a system that protects him and an offense that finishes plays. If Pittsburgh fixes protection and movement between the tackles, Rodgers can continue to be a bridge into competitiveness. If they don't, this season risks becoming a collection of near misses wrapped in nostalgia. The image that will stick is small but telling. Rodgers taking another man's jersey, signing it, and walking away. It's not grand. It's human. He lost a game he wanted, but he didn't need to have the last word to make his point. The work now is less about sound bites and more about practice reps, protection calls, and third down scripts. That's where games actually turn around, not in the locker room rhetoric, but in the week-to-week grind that separates teams who learn from a sting from the ones who just feel it and move on. Pittsburgh, 12 minutes before midnight in a quiet Steelers locker room, Aaron Rodgers stood and grabbed 2 Sharpies and his game-worn jersey. He walked around to the equipment staging area, spread the jersey on the counter, and signed another man's name onto it, Jordan Love. The 41-year-old quarterback's face still showed the sting of Pittsburgh's 35-25 loss to Green Bay, but he didn't hesitate to complete the predecessor to successor ritual. It was the latest, most human moment in a game and a week that Rodgers had framed as a reunion with the people and relationships he built over 18 seasons in Green Bay. It's good to see a lot of people that I grew up with in the league, Rodgers said after the game. This game is about relationships, so some of my dearest friends are still over there. Those friendships are special. Rodgers' tone all week had been grateful and retrospective. Even after a loss in which he flashed vintage moments, a 45-yard bomb early and a pair of halftime TDs to DK Metcalf, he avoided the snark and bite he'd used following other recent games. He didn't trade barbs about the Packers' front office or indulge in the one-upmanship that can follow these matchups. Instead, he focused on the broader picture: friendships, competition, and the work left to do. On the field, the narrative was classic quarterback storytelling. A Hall of Famer who showed he still has the arm and craft, but was outplayed down the stretch by his one-time understudy. Rodgers finished 24 of 36 for 219 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 101.5 passer rating. Jordan Love, meanwhile, completed 29 of 37 passes for 360 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a 134.2 rating. An efficient, composed performance that leaned on checkdowns, pocket movement, and taking what the defense offered. Love spread the ball to 10 different targets and got big plays from tight end Tucker Kraft, who finished with 7 catches for 143 yards and 2 scores. Christian Watson, returning from a torn ACL, made his presence felt with 4 catches for 85 yards. Love's fourth quarter surge, 21 points in the period, turned a tight game into a decisive comeback. For Pittsburgh, the night unraveled in the second half. The Steelers converted just once on 10 third-down chances, and costly miscues piled up: a drop pass by Pat Freiermuth, a fumble by Kenneth Gainwell, and penalties that stalled momentum. The Packers' pass rush, led by Micah Parsons and supported by others, increasingly collapsed the pocket. Parsons carved through the line for a pivotal sack in the fourth that forced a long third down and turned the tide. Still, teammates felt the loss personally. Linebacker Patrick Queen admitted the defeat definitely stings, saying the locker room knew what the game meant for Rodgers and wanted to deliver for him. Rodgers himself said he was disappointed in his second-half play and the team's execution, pointing to the need for cleaner early down play, better accuracy, and more consistency. Even amid the disappointment, Rodgers praised Love. "He played great, played fantastic," Rodgers said. "He's been really efficient with the football. He's opportunistic. I felt like he was very patient tonight." There was little dramatics in the locker room afterward. Tomlin's message was plain and practical. "We got to get better. We got to get better in a hurry," the coach said. Rodgers obediently signed the jersey, leaving behind a small but resonant gesture. A quiet endorsement, a nod across eras, and a reminder that the NFL's personal and professional threads often run together.